Well, hello there guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Red Shadow and I'm back with another pickups video. This was originally planned, of course, to just be the September pickups, but I got to the end of September and once again I was like, I don't really have enough here in my little pile to justify, a super short video. And I had some stuff that was going to show up as we crossed into October. And so I just decided I would do, it's September and half of October, but now it's been more than a week since the middle of the month, and I had planned on getting over here and doing this at least somewhere around the 15th or the 16th. So anyway, that's what this will be, and then the next pickup video will more than likely be at the end of November to get what comes in at the end of October and for all of November. I don't know how much will end up being. I know I already have a couple of things that are ready to go for that video, but hopefully November will see me grabbing a few extra things into the collection. But what I have here is a couple of Blu-rays and then a couple more new additions to the PS4 collection. So we'll go ahead and get started on this, and I'll start with I have 2 Blu-ray pickups, and then it's 7 PS4 games. So the first thing I have to show for the month is the new horror movie called Longlegs. This stars Maika Monroe and Nicolas Cage, and this was like one of the few times when a new horror movie caught my interest, and I was like, I have to check out the trailers, I have to know a little bit more about the movie, but not too much. I'm hoping to watch this in the next week in time for Halloween. I always try to do Halloween, like a couple of horror games, maybe a movie or something to watch that's scary. So that was my pick for this year's at least one Halloween movie. If I watch something more, cool, but if I watch anything, I want it to be this one. My general impression of it is just that the vibe of it reminded me a little of like the new Alan Wake game, which I haven't played because it's only on new current console and I don't have one, but I want to play it. There's just something about the advertising I saw for Longlegs that reminded me a little bit of that vibe. And then the other Blu-ray pickup I had for this month finally finishes my journey of picking up all the seasons of the X-Files on Blu-ray. This is season 8. This was the last one that I had to pick up. I got slowed down a bit on collecting the Blu-ray seasons for the X-Files because I read that season 8 had some problematic releases. Some of the early initial copies of this went out, and the lighting on all of the discs for this was very dark. From the menus to the episodes themselves, it was overly dark, way beyond what it should have been. And so I was a little bit worried about buying a copy of it and getting a version like that would have been one of the affected copies. At the time that this came out, Fox knew that there was a problem and opened up a thing where you could contact them and say, hey, I got one of the bad discs, and you could get replacement copies. But they only did that for like a year or so after it came out, and these have been out for a handful of years now. So I was super afraid that I would either buy a brand new unopened copy from someone on eBay, and then I'd open it up and find out that there was a problem and probably have issues getting my money back on it. I was also a little concerned about finding people selling open copies and not being honest about what the situation was. And I'm now in season 6, nearing the end of season 6 in my current rewatch. And so I started to get a little antsy about not having this in hand by the time I got to season 8. So I actually found a really super cheap copy, and then like a dum-dum, I didn't contact the eBay seller to ask him, if it was tested and if it was okay. So I ended up taking the chance, and then when I got it in a couple weeks ago, I popped in like 3 of the discs and checked it all out, and everything was good on it. So I feel pretty good about that, and only paid around $20 for it. Okay, let's jump into the games that I've got here now. First thing I've got was a game I bought on sale from Best Buy. It's Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. I'm not a massive Monkey Ball fan, but I have played some of the games and I get some enjoyment out of them. And I think there's this and one other one that's like a remake of an older game or two on PS4. So I thought I would end up picking these up, and especially, like I said, I got this I think for around $10 from Best Buy, so I couldn't beat that. I hate that the disc is loose, but I'll be opening it anyway, so it's not a big deal. Alright, and then I have this is Signalis. Cool story with this game. So I've been interested in it ever since it came out, and I was hearing good reviews. It has a pixelated graphical style, so it's one of those sort of retro callback 16-bit whatever, but the game is very much like an early Resident Evil game. You don't have to play it with tank controls, but it plays out with tank controls and limited ammo and finding a peculiar item to open up to solve a puzzle of some sort. So you get a key so you can open a door, but you can play it with modernized controls, which I did, and it played very, very well. My problem with it was it's very kind of abstract, and it seems to be laden with metaphors and symbolism, as opposed to, hey, it's STARS team members in a mansion with a bunch of zombies and weird creatures. So I'm sure there was probably a deeper meaning going on in this game when I played it, and I think it just kind of escaped me a little bit. But that was my only real complaint. I played this. This was one of my October spooky month gameplays, and so I am still going to be doing the series of games I've beat this year. So I'll get a little bit more in depth with it at some point. But I would still recommend this. And I wanted to mention, I got this from VGP, Video Games Plus, out of Canada. They did a reprint on this. So this game came out, I want to say last year, or at the max the year before. And like I said, I've been wanting to get it. It was one of those games in that like $30 to $35 range. So it wasn't like it was expensive. I just thought I'll get it whenever I'm able to get around to it, when there isn't something else that I like have a limited amount of time to pick up. And so I don't think I'd looked this one up, all this year. And apparently it had gotten to $100 or more on the secondary market because it was out of print. It wasn't being actively printed. And I didn't realize that until VGP announced they were doing a reprint. I was like, well, that's an interesting game for them to want to reprint. It's not an expensive one or anything. And then I looked it up on eBay and I was like, oh, it is. I slept and it ended up getting out of reach. So thank goodness for VGP. The only difference between this and the original print of it was that the original print came with like this is just disc in the case. The original game had a facsimile of a instant photo of characters or something from the game. So that's the only thing that's not in this, so that doesn't bother me at all. All I wanted was to be able to play the game. So appreciate VGP for doing that kind of stuff nowadays. And speaking of VGP, this next game I also picked up from them. So this is the Tales of Symphonia remastered, and this is the Chosen Edition. It's a PAL exclusive, this version of it. But this one has the game, a metal box. I mean, I assume I would consider that to be a steel book, but nowadays there are other versions of this. There's steel books, steel packs, metal boxes, whatever. There's also stickers and 3 looks like character illustrations included in this. So the standard NTSC version that we got here in North America, the only version of this that we got, was on sale on VGP. They're Canadian, so they list them under Canadian under their currency, so it was $20 Canadian, and then there was this version for $25. That roughly translates to about $15 American for the standard and about 18 something for this one. So I said, well, of course I'm going to do this version. I don't care about the different rating symbols on the cases. I just want the game. This is such a cooler looking package, really beautiful artwork, and the white packaging on this kind of sets it aside from the standard blue packaging that PS4 games are. So I was like, I'm definitely going to get this. Now, I have Tales of Symphonia on PS3, I think it is, but I haven't played it, and anytime I can upgrade to some remastered, souped-up style version for PS4, I'm always on board. So I got that one, and then I've got the next 3 games are my limited run purchases for them, or the ones that came in this month. So the first thing I have to show here is a game called Fox and Forest. This is a, let's see, it even says on here, 2D action platformer with RPG and puzzle elements inspired by the glorious days of 16-bit. So the graphical style on this is very like 16-bit action platformers with the pixel art style. And this is just a game that 6 or 7 years ago I saw and thought, man, that looks really, really cool. And I was buying a lot more, or I was interested in a lot more games like this, but I've become a bit more selective with them now. But this one, it's, like I said, I saw it 6 or 7 years ago, and Strictly Limited, one of the other limited print companies, they put this game out on physical, and I missed it. I don't remember if I was debating it for too long, or if I came along like after it sold out. Whatever the case was, Strictly Limited had the physical, and then I missed it, and I was kind of upset. And it became one of those that was up there in price, so it was out of my reach. I'm not, when something like this comes out and it's $30 or $40, I'm not paying $100 plus for it down the road. I can't justify that. And then, for no reason whatsoever that I can tell, Limited Run comes along and says, we're going to put out a physical of this 6 years after they did. And I know that happens sometimes. Just because a limited print company does a game doesn't mean that that's the only place that it can possibly ever come out. And I wish more gamers and collectors out there would understand that, instead of getting pissed off when stuff like this happens, or Signalis from VGP. The people who make those games should be allowed to sell it however they can and wherever they can. So I'm super happy that I'll have a chance now to check this game out. And the next thing I've got here from Limited Run Game is Sam & Max Save the World. So Limited Run has put out a handful of Sam & Max games. There's another one that I've pre-ordered. I think it's expected in December or January. They did at least one virtual reality game, VR game of Sam & Max. And I think there's a possibility that there's some other Sam & Max titles that Limited Run may put out. And so I'm totally on board with these. I understand the history of Sam & Max. I played, I think it was just a demo of a little slice of an episode of the Telltale game Sam & Max from years back. On the Xbox 360, I believe, is where I played it, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kind of the aesthetic. I know that there's going to be some humor involved in these games, and they're kind of like detective stuff. Like I suppose they're supposed to be detectives or policemen, crime fighters. It says Sam's a 6-foot-tall canine Seamus with a love of justice. Max is a hyperkinetic, rabbity thing with a taste for mayhem. Together, they're a team of freelance police officers on a mission to take down a bizarre mind control conspiracy. So yeah, it's just good stuff. It reminds me of point-and-click style games and narrative adventure games. So happy to have that one. And my last limited run pickup for the month is amongst probably my least favorite games in this series. It doesn't mean that I hate it. I still like it, but I wasn't as high on this one as a lot of other people are. But how could I not get a physical version of Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon for PS4 on disc to go with all the rest of my Far Cry collection? I'm a big Far Cry fan, particularly Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, Far Cry New Dawn, Far Cry 6. The ones that I didn't think were quite as good, they didn't appeal to me as much, is Blood Dragon. And I know, like I said, that's heresy. People absolutely love this game. And Far Cry Primal is one of my lesser favorites, but I still like them. I got to play this for the first time, I believe it was last year. It was the first time front to back. I played it on the 360, but I only played like an hour or so into the game. And there was just something about the neon-drenched visual style that was actually a turnoff for me when it comes to Far Cry gameplay. But I do appreciate all the nods and the callbacks to like 80s stuff. Like I said, I'm just happy to have this. There's only, I think, one other way to get this physically on a disc. It's in the Far Cry compilation on PS3 and Xbox 360, but only one of those consoles has it on disc, and the other one I think is just a code. And I was waiting for a long time, probably a couple of years on eBay. I had a copy of it on my save, my watch later list or whatever it is, my watch list. Watch later is YouTube. I had it on my watch list for the longest time and was just going to pull the trigger one of these days and pick it up, and then this came along. So boom, there. That was an automatic must-have. All right, and that brings me to my last game, and this is a big one for me. And I'll talk about this. I'll expand this and tell the story behind this, about why this one stirs a lot of emotions in me, both good and bad. But this is the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 collection. That's what they call it on the side here. At some point, this was called the Pixel Remaster Collection. And this is the 1 through 6 collection anniversary edition. That is to discern it from the original release of this, which did not specify anniversary edition on it. But this is Final Fantasies 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All that were remastered a few years back, a handful of years at this point now, for, I believe it was originally mobile, and then it was going to come to PC, and then it was eventually going to come to consoles, or so we were all led to believe, what we were all hoping for. And then finally they did it, PS4 and Switch. I think it came to the consoles digitally first, and then all of us were, I'm saying all of us because there were definitely a lot of people in the community that were hoping that we could have something like this digitally, or excuse me, physically, to add to our collections and not have to buy them online somewhere on Steam or on PlayStation Store and the eShop. So I think it was late 2022. It had to have been sometime in December 2022, or maybe it was January 2023. I'm not sure which. I was still working at Walmart. I was working on overnight shifts, but I was off the night that the original release of this was announced and put up for sale. I mean, it wasn't announced, hey, coming on this date, Square Enix didn't come out and say, on this date, we're going to be selling the physicals for this through our store only, so be sure to be there. It was just like, I was sitting here in my living room on my TV, and I was playing Death Stranding. And like I'm prone to do, and like I think a lot of us do, I picked up my phone at one point, and I was like, I just want to see what's on Facebook, what's going on here and there. Spend a couple minutes looking at stuff, and then get back deep into the game. And I happened to pull up Facebook, and multiple people in the couple of different groups that I go to were saying, oh my gosh, the Pixel Remaster Collection physical release has been announced, and it's the pre-orders are open live now. Check it out. So I went over there. Let's see what's going on with this thing. And the first thing I see, like most of the people did, was the price. $75. That's how much this version cost. The original print of this that Square Enix did only through their store was also $75, and it was like $20+ for shipping. So when I put it in my cart, I just took it to the cart so I could see how much it would cost overall. It was over $100, and I was like, that's not really something in that moment there I felt comfortable doing. I was like, I'm gonna wait till I get paid or something like that, or maybe I could select something out of my collection that I don't really need that would give me some of that money and translate to the purchase of that. And I said, even though it said on the listing quantities will be limited, even though the people in the groups were all saying this is going to be limited, don't wait. And I'm usually one of those types, is like, I'm not going to wait. A limited run will say, hey, this is the pre-order on this is going to be open for 30 days, so I know what I'm looking at. But stuff like this will kind of drop in, and it'll just be, it'll be kind of quick. But I expected this to be, in higher quantities than a couple hundred copies. It felt like this had to have been a couple hundred copies, because I think it was an hour and a half to 2 hours later, I got back on my phone and everybody's like, it's already sold out, guys. It's already gone. I was like, what the fuck? That's stupid. And so I went on to the thing, and yep, there it is, sold out, not available, yada, yada, yada. There was a link to get on a waiting list. So I clicked onto the link and put in my email address. Although I was already a part of Square Enix's waiting or mailing list as it was. And I said, well, shoot, how that you make a decision on something like that. I'm just going to wait a week or two. I'm sure it'll still be available, and then I'll pull the trigger. And it's gone in less than 2 hours, and you get pissed off, and you start to feel like weird anxiety over that kind of stuff. Just not a thing I was wanting in my life. I just wanted to get these games and to be able to play them, because I've never beat any of these games. I've sampled some of 6. I've sampled a little of 5. And that's pretty much it. For the longest time, Final Fantasy 3, the actual Final Fantasy 3, and not the one on Super Nintendo that was actually 6. For the longest time, Final Fantasy 3 wasn't even available in the US in an English language version. I think it was the Game Boy Advance or the DS got a version of it, and that's out of my reach. Those are handheld consoles that I don't play and never really did. So I love the idea of having all of these games on my console of choice, PS4. And then when it was gone, I was mad. And of course, right from the beginning on eBay, the guaranteed pre-orders, I pre-ordered this and you can buy it from me, and I'm going to charge you hundreds of dollars for it kind of shit was there. Sour taste in my mouth and throughout the gaming collecting groups. So I just had to be like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to get this unless they do something else. Maybe that email wait list will produce something. And then not long after that, PlayAsia sent out emails, and people in the groups and Discords that I'm a part of said, hey, PlayAsia is advertising the Asian English release, so here's your second chance. So I was right on that. Almost immediately I went straight into that. And then within a couple of days, PlayAsia said, oh, Square Enix has told us they're not going to be doing an Asian English release. The only releases they were doing was this limited version that was on their store, and then there was a limited PAL version that was on the UK Square Enix store, and all of those were sold out almost immediately. So a couple months go by, and then the Pixel Remaster physicals actually started to come out and were in people's hands. The PS4 version, the Switch version. Both of them had a standard physical version, and then some really elaborate, very cool looking special editions, but they were also expensive. Like, I think those were $200 to $250 when they came out. And then on eBay, this shit was crazy. I've had some people who were like, the PS4 standard version was never hundreds of dollars. Bullshit. It was, and may still be. I don't know how this version has affected the price now, but it was ridiculous on some of them. Hundreds of dollars, approaching $1,000, and the special editions far and above that. So I was very, very mad. I was very, very mad that Square Enix did that. I was very, very mad that they put up their email waiting list and nothing ever came of that. Somebody told me that there was some sort of a second chance thing of like copies that canceled orders or extra copies to replace damaged stuff that came through. I never heard about that. I never got an email. I was right there on day one with the email waiting list bullshit that didn't pan out to anything. The PlayAsia thing not going through, and then watching people for a year and a half fleece collectors for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and shame on those people for spending that kind of money, but shame on these assholes for selling it for that when there wasn't even any precedent for it. This was something that wasn't even out, and people were already trying to gouge people on it. And then the fact that it was trading around, and it created this elite sentiment amongst certain collectors of, look, I got the thing, and it's worth hundreds of dollars. I bought 4 copies. I'll sell you one for $500. It's like, fuck you for any of that shit. I'm not into that crap. I'm so over that. Like, I've sold stuff on eBay for a pretty penny of stuff, but those were things that have they're games that have been out for decades. In the case of some of them, the demand and the value of those things is justified. But this stuff was created by Square Enix just not making enough copies of the game in a day and age when they know that the demand is there. So for them to wait a year and a half and then just be like, hey, we're going to do this version and we're going to call it the Anniversary Edition, and you're going to get the game and you get some stickers in here, which, I mean, I love any kind of extra little things that they include. A manual would be nice, but some stickers or something like that is also really cool. I just wanted this, and I was totally willing to pay you $75 for 6 old games on one disc. But I just don't understand why Square thought that it was necessary to take everybody on this roller coaster ride. I'm upset with them over that, and I probably always will be. For my own personal gratification, this redeems them. But just the idea that, and this Square Enix is one of those companies that says they put out a game and it sells 5 million copies, and I'm talking about like a Tomb Raider game in the past, and they say that falls below our expectations. And the gaming industry is in a situation right now where when those words start to come out of the publisher's mouth, that's shitty towards the people who made the game and the millions of people who bought the game and enjoyed the game. So I could, and I probably will talk more about shit like that in another video. I can tell you one thing I've been doing in all these weeks of not doing actual videos and releasing the pickups videos or anything else. I've definitely been kicking around a lot of ideas for videos that I could do. Problem is I don't strike while the iron is hot, and I don't mean like when it's super topical. I just mean like when I'm thinking about it, because then by the time I sit down to do it, I've forgotten all the things I really wanted to get into about some of these gaming topics. But I have a bunch of ideas, and I just got to find the time to sit my ass down over here and do it, like I finally did with this. So thank you for watching this. Like I said, for sure, the games I beat this year, that series of videos is going to be coming up. And then if I get around to it, I want to talk about stuff going on in gaming right now with layoffs and shutdowns. And I wanted to do specific videos about my thoughts on PlayStation right now, Nintendo right now, and Xbox right now. So hopefully this guy right here can find some motivation to sit down and do these videos and get them up for whoever wants to watch them. But I'll go ahead and shut up now so that this video doesn't get out of hand, and then hopefully this will get us rolling into something, especially because I do have some stuff over here I want to talk about that has to do with this, basically my Final Fantasy games collection, and I think that's something I'm going to want to talk about now that I have this 1 through 6 collection As I'm really amazed by how many Final Fantasy games I can now play on my PS4 all on disc. But I'll save that for another video. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.